I'm Bob Colton. We're continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools. Laura Lezotte is here today. She really coordinates the special education services and programs. So, Laura, what do young people in Charlotte get in the special education programs?
Well, the first thing we always focus on is that all students are general education students first. Under the federal laws for the IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Action, all students are to be included to the greatest extent that they can. So any students here in Charlotte are available to have multiple services. Those might be things that go from assisting students with learning disabilities and providing tutoring and teacher support to them, but also we have programs for youth that may be autistically impaired. We have preschool programs for children with special needs that could range from being wheelchair-bound individuals that need tube feedings to having speech and language services.
So there are a variety of types of services.
There's many varieties.
How do you, someone in your position, you have new faculty involved this year. How do you go about assessing young people in your program, making sure they're getting what they need for special services?
Well, every year there is an annual meeting called an IEP, and that's an individual education plan. But before there's ever that, there is an entry level of supports that a student would go through, and assessments that, depending upon their area of disability, would be conducted by professionals, including school psychologists, social workers, teachers, other therapists.
So it's a whole team kind of assessment of things.
Yes, and that happens every 3 years under Michigan law. And so students, as they change and their needs change and they grow, we're sure to program to meet those needs that they have.
And that assessment is really important because it lets you plan a strategy and kind of map out what the educational future is going to be.
We review goals for students each semester, and progress reports are sent home twice during a semester, much like a marking period report. Teachers are in frequent communication with parents. Many of them email daily. Lots of kids go home with lots of documentation to and from school that for the younger set it might be a smiley face that you had a great day and you did well. For older students, it's working towards different kinds of rewards. Also working towards the satisfaction of, I'm in the classroom and I did it.
Yeah, so and you want those young people to be integrated into a general population as much as possible. So what sort of special things do you have to do to get them ready to do that?
Well, some of the things that we do is we also have, beyond the initial testing teams that reoccur on scheduled basis, we have parapros that are part of our team here that support students with special needs in a variety of ways. We also have ongoing times where children receive what's called a pull-out strategy or a push-in strategy. If we push you into the general ed classroom, you may go in there with varying levels of support. If you're pulled out, it might be for an intensive study for a short period of time. Student frequently goes in and receives instruction in their general ed classroom, gets everything they need to know to start the assignment, but if they have some needs where they might need it explained in a different way, or they might need some extra time in completing that, a special education teacher would pull them out then, perform that function, assist and support them, and then back into the general classroom they go.
And you have students with maybe physical needs or intellectual needs, but really you also have to work on students who have behavioral issues as well.
Yes.
What kind of challenges do you have and have to work with?
We've seen some significant increases across the county and actually across the state. Some of that's due to our recent economic circumstances here in the state of Michigan, and I'm happy, as we all are, to hear that there's an upward trend in that from what there had been over the past previous years. But
because it's been tough, hasn't it?
It has been tough, and it's been tough on families. And when things are tough on families, they're tough on kids. And kids often respond to those when they don't have a skill set like most adults do to say, well, you know, this is tough, but I can do this, this, and this to get through it and make it better. kids don't have that life experience.
Yeah.
So we have to support them in that, provide instruction and teaching and methods and ways for them to begin to cope with their emotions and feelings appropriately.
Well, how do you think the services offered in Charlotte might be different from other places? I mean, obviously there are standards that everybody has to meet, but can you give people a little extra?
We can. And we can do that in the way that many of our programs have evolved here in Charlotte. We have something that's part of a statewide initiative, but many districts are not yet participating in it, or they're not as far along the path as we are. And that's something for students with autism, and it's called the LINKS program. And that's hooking up students with autism with same age or building level peers as a buddy system for them. We have tremendous success stories about kids becoming part of sports teams, clubs, attending school functions, dances, all kinds of things with people that they form a relationship with. And what's so mutually satisfying about that is it isn't just the special needs student that wins in that situation. It's the individuals that form that relationship and learn to really value people for the unique individuals they are.
People really don't understand autism, do they?
No, and we're learning about it in a tremendous way. Medical authorities, psychiatric authorities have recently changed the way they document this and diagnose it, even in the psychiatric criteria. So what happens is we are still learning so much, like we are so much about everything, and brain science, neuroscience tells us more all the time. So individuals can be very unique from what people may stereotypically think of as an individual with autism to someone with extraordinary gifts that we may not have recognized until we really stopped and paid attention.
So, as an educator, how do you possibly deal with all of these different young people at different levels? And you have to map individual curriculum programs that meet their needs,
Yes,
right?
you do. And that's why, to quote that adage from a few presidencies ago, that it does take a village. And it doesn't take just one individual. It takes parents in partnership with schools. It takes school members and team partnerships with one another to make it all happen. Everybody pulling together.
So what would Charlotte Public Schools require from parents in this situation? What do parents have to step up to do?
I think parents can step up to school by sometimes coming to school, communicating with the school. You know, for everybody, school is not a wonderful place to be, nor has it always been a very positive experience for everyone that has attended a school. Parents sometimes are reluctant to come to school because that may not have been a positive experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
So the school's job is to embrace them, and the parents' job is to please meet us at that door and let us be supportive and helpful and share with us what you can so we can make your child's educational journey as effective as it can be.
It kind of requires teachers to have unique skills.
It does.
In special education services, right?
Yes, it does. There are teachers with specified endorsements in each of these areas, and so their college curriculum has required them to be knowledgeable in, say, everybody would get a general endorsement in special ed, kind of the broad overview. Then you drill down into really learning the skills and strategies to work with people that may have an emotional impairment.
Mm-hmm.
That was my own expertise as a special education teacher. You may learn about students with autism. You may learn about students that are mildly or moderately cognitively impaired. And so throughout a special education teacher's career, they may be exposed to many different varieties of students, but each one has a specialty.
Laura Lezotte, you said that you have kind of an expertise in emotional impairments. Tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, what do you look for? What do you have to know?
Well, what you have to know is you have to have a working knowledge of what behaviors or impaired emotions might look like, and that's defined for students as an inability to adapt and respond appropriately emotionally in a setting where most folks can.
So that means to people who don't have an association with anyone with special needs, that means that sometimes young people are responding with inappropriate emotional reactions.
Correct. Where you and I might get normally frustrated, and sometimes even more frustrated, we generally don't decide to clear off the tabletop or shove a chair or a desk across the room.
Mm-hmm.
That's an inappropriate response. But you know what? Their frustration is as genuine as yours and mine. It's just that we have to find an appropriate way to help them begin to deal with some of those things.
Mm-hmm. And I would bet that it must be incredibly rewarding because you can see students making progress.
Absolutely. Particularly when students are in a school system for an extended period of time, like most of the people are in smaller communities, like those we find here in Charlotte. People become a part of the school system, they join us at an early age, and they stick with us. And you're in a small community like this, not just the general community, but the educational community. Teachers can share with one another. Teachers can be so thrilled when they see someone make that progress or that child walk across the stage at high school graduation. It can be very, very fulfilling.
And you say a small community. Does Charlotte have that small community feel where you think there's just more acceptance of special young people?
I think that I think there's a good acceptance of that here, and I think it's growing. Nationally, I think it's growing nationally, I think it's growing here, and that is directly attributable to the fact that we have children, as like I started out, gen ed students first. The more you're with your same age peers that share in those experiences that you yourself has as a student with special needs, the more able you are to navigate those systems as you grow.
So what do you think we did maybe not as well in the past in public education, and maybe what Charlotte is doing now, how you've adapted to really learn and make the program valuable?
Well, I think there used to be a pretty accepted movement, and this certainly was a few years ago when I started as an EI teacher. Kids were pulled out. You would be in a classroom, and I would have at any one time 7 to 12 impaired high school students in one classroom, and they were with me most all of the day. Occasionally they might go out to gym or another special. Now it's called PE, it was gym way back when. But they may go out to those other things. Now, not only do they go out to those, but the goal is they need to be receiving that in social studies, in science, in math, all those courses, not isolated from others. Because the best example is with everyone else and participating in society. And you know, when you're done with the school system, that's where you're going to be. And that's what our job is to support every child, special needs or not, to be able to be productive in that society at large.
It must take a really unique kind of educator to be a special teacher.
I think so. I think the best teachers are unique educators in whatever they're in, though. You could be an outstanding social studies teacher. You can be an outstanding teacher of students with autism. What it takes is passion and commitment.
How do you help other teachers who may not deal with special students all the time really kind of understand and accept and adapt to some of the students they could have in their general education?
A lot of that is with meeting people where they're at. And that means meeting your students where they're at, your parents where you're at, their colleagues where you're at. So if you're someone that now is going to have a student in your classroom that you, as a general ed teacher, have never had experience with before, it's up to us as members of the special ed department community to share with you, to educate with you, to answer your questions, to be available to you, and to say, you did a really nice job with that today. How about I help you out with this one?
Yeah.
So,
and in a smaller community like Charlotte, compared to other large metropolitan areas, you kind of know who's coming. You know the field, and that knowledge really adds a lot of power in helping young people.
As I mentioned, we have these IEP meetings annually. Every student has one. And often, depending upon the needs of the student, we will include last year's teacher in this first meeting of the year, because they can tell us in that transitioning meeting, how did things go for that student last year, and what was successful, and what can we continue as they change into a new building or a new grade.
What do you do to get more information out to the general public about special services and programs?
Well, we have a group that belongs to what was formerly called our Intermediate School District, or ISD. It's now called ERISA, and it's a Regional Educational Authority. And what that does is we have members that belong to that. They're called PAC members. Those are Parent Advocacy Group. And we have members from each district within the county. And Charlotte parents are part of that group. They have babysitting provided during those meetings if you're a parent with younger children. So it's an evening meeting, usually from 6 to 8. And we encourage membership in that. And we want to involve those people in saying, gosh, this is something that we've seen in our district, or we need more of or less of. So parents are involved in the process all along.
Yeah, usually parents are interested if their kid's involved. If they're not, but you want all parents to have more knowledge of the program,
Absolutely.
don't you?
Part of that has happened too when we've had some of our students come into the classroom with unique needs that students may not have experienced before. Say they're at the younger grades, and all of a sudden someone may come in that has some physical assistance devices. They may have an electrical wheelchair, they may have a speaking board, they may have some different things that, wow, they've never seen that before. A teacher or another service provider will often come in and explain to the class as a whole, this is what they have, this is what it's like.
It's a great learning experience for other students.
It is. And so they become very aware of that. And after a while, it's that they know, oh, well, I go out this part of the line, I have to wait so I can hold the door open, and they can get through in their chair, and then off we go, and here we are involved in this or that. So I think that that inclusion model from the earliest of ages is very important. You used to see more reaction to that at the older grades. You don't see it anymore because they've been experiencing this throughout their educational careers.
Sure. Now, I would imagine that a special teacher focuses on education, but you also must have to be mechanics sometimes, making things work, and because you have to do just about everything, don't you?
We do, but we have specialists for that too.
Yeah.
We're all about our specialists in special ed.
Yeah.
So we do have assistive technology specialists that help us with all those kinds of things too. But we do rely on, like I say, our parapros are a lot of the people that are there in the front line that facilitate a lot of just the things you're talking about.
Well, how has technology helped special education students or students with special needs?
Extraordinarily so, and expanding as fast as technology expands. Those programs are expanding for students. Communication in particular, computers that can design speech programs for children that may be nonverbal and now are able to communicate and participate. There are writing programs for students that can do these same things. You can talk to your pen, position in your hand, and it will write on the page for you.
Yeah,
You are
isn't that
having
amazing?
the same experience that everybody else in that classroom is having. Just amazing things can happen. Also, all the biomechanical things that are happening for students, and the assistive devices. Now, it doesn't mean that the fanciest device going is always the best one either, but it's wonderful to have those things available to us.
Yeah. So, Laura Lezotte, the special education services guru here in Charlotte Public Schools, what does the future look like, you think? I mean, what sort of new technology or teaching ways do you have to look forward to in the future?
I think one of the things that we're developing uniquely now across the state as an initiative is something called, because we love our acronyms, MTSS. And what that is multi-tiered systems of support. And what that means is special ed doesn't stay in one place, doesn't stay in one classroom. What it means is people with general education teachers and special education teachers are working together all the time, side by side, in the same classroom. In fact, I've attended school conferences before when we've implemented co-teaching models, which is what we have here at Charlotte, and students will come through the room, and they're there, And they actually have introduced themselves and they said, I have two teachers. This is Mr. So-and-so and Mrs. So-and-so. And they were a general ed student. They didn't realize that one of those people was a special education teacher for the special needs children in the room, because everyone is supporting everyone.
Well, that's great.
It
That's
is
terrific.
exciting.
Well, Laura, thank you for being with us. I'm Bob
Thank
Colt,
you.
and we will continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.